This video is a direct response to the final episode of Hot Wet Soup. To say the least, Zaptie is in hot water, and his friends handled this situation quite suspiciously. So what I'm going to do here is share my observations and suspicions. What you see on the screen is all there's going to be. There will be no heavy edits, so feel free to listen to this as you do what you're doing. But I just plead that you listen to every detail. So, let's start with Ed. Ed has broken the news to his friends that he is a diagnosed sociopath and a pathological liar. He's been in several relationships, quote-unquote relationships, at once with several girls, and apparently at a questionably young age. 16 is the average, I believe. He's also allegedly received pornographic imagery directly from one or more of these young ladies, by their free will, I might add, and this is to my understanding. One of these young ladies were confirmed to be legal in his state and possibly her own, but this covers the legality of physical relations, not photographic. Ed has been caught lying about his disposition and opinions on certain things with multiple people, changing his answer between individuals who converse with him on various topics. Ed has used his friends for floating him cash that he didn't actually need. Ed has also admitted to not being able to feel emotions strongly, if not at all, concerning his friends, yet has demonstrated otherwise in previous videos of public interactions. So in summary, Ed has used his friends for money and possible status climbing, told various individuals inconsistent information regarding various discussions, held multiple relationships with young women, and received illegal imagery of a young woman, or more, whichever the case may be. Bionic Pig, Elvis the Alien, and I'm Alex spend a great deal of time clinging to the word sociopath. They wanted to drive this label home more than the misdeeds committed, it seemed. Yet there's a few inconsistencies with this. Sociopaths, if supposedly as unfeeling as we presume them to be, wouldn't out themselves as sociopaths. If they didn't feel the sting of their misdeeds committed toward their friends, they wouldn't dare take unwanted backlash. This would put the sociopath, in quotes, in a life-shattering position and would have an acute gain of ill repute. You could counter this argument well enough by considering that sociopaths are not enabled to gauge moral and legal rights and wrongs. But I'm not done. This is Ed we're talking about. This isn't your average stooge who glances at articles and skims their lines. Ed is a studious and meticulous man. Keeping this in mind, wasn't it mentioned he was a pathological liar? One would draw the conclusion that Ed is using the label sociopath as a way to fend off a chunk of backlash similar to the way one would plead insanity for their actions in court. I don't find it likely that Ed would be diagnosed with an out-of-date medical term, let alone run with it for any other reason. I believe Ed isn't a sociopath, and I can say confidently that he wasn't faking the emotional engagements he's previously had with all his friends. He's just made some very poor decisions in, the pursuit of whatever he wanted to gain. Many people don't address that Ed has been described in several ways that add up to something different. He's described himself to be introverted, incredibly private, and prefers to avoid confrontation. He was nervous in this interview with Tommy C and has been described to be more quiet outside of his videos and podcasts. Ed has also been caught trying his best to change his answers and attitude towards individuals, submitting himself to gain their private favor. I'd say that Ed is a submissive, timid human being who does his best to fit in wherever and however for his gain. I believe this sociopath business is a way to reduce the incoming flack, as I've previously stated, that he's bound to receive, as well as throw people off his inability to be honest and a good friend. With that covered, we're done with Ed. Now for Elvis, Pig, and Alex. You guys pussyfooted the first 30 minutes of your podcast parroting the word sociopath as if it were your personal Jesus Christ term. You also repetitiously claimed you were all in contact with him, still on as friendly terms as you could be in spite of the situation, and were attempting to work things out. You tried your best to engage us as if we were children, in my opinion, cooing and reluctantly divulging his supposed misdeeds. I believe the three of you were trying to gain sympathy and pull as many people on your side as possible, trying to be further convincing by speaking to us as if you exposed your metaphorical wounds in a bid for trust. That is a very poor choice. Because if you were confident in what you were presenting to us, you would have done so objectively and concisely, regardless of the situation. That is manipulative. And regardless of what good intent you may have had, it just doesn't look good. You also treat the word sociopath as so dire you'd swear the man committed murder. Sociopaths are fully capable of grasping right and wrong. They know what they do and why they do it. They're simply less inclined to act in accordance to what would commonly dissuade the average person. After this podcast was wrapped up, it didn't take long before many people readily jumped on Zaptie's situation and openly ridiculed him. This leads me to believe that Zaptie was found out a while ago. There was little to no public buildup. The information presented to us in that podcast was swift and unrelenting. The evidence of his engagement with the young lady and proof of shared news was also too conveniently at hand when needed. This information was compounded and circulated long before this was made public so that it would effectively bury him alive in one go. This isn't to say it wasn't deserved, but it was a mounted effort that was too heavy to be out of the blue. So you want to know what else I noticed? Considering that this is the commentary community, you'd think someone as loved as Ed would be mourned before mocked. Most good friends who were hit with this information would need time to reflect and grieve over a betrayal of this caliber. Excuse me. Yet it seems, apart from Elvis and Pig being pretty quiet, others were incredibly out of the gate with their jokes and cruel exchanges. This leads me to believe that the easily given information and convenient evidence on standby shows that they were prepared and well aware before this quote-unquote incident happened just a few days ago. It also doesn't look good when I'm Alex spearheads a majority of the conversation as well as spearheads the response to most of the backlash instead of Pig and Elvis. He was a little too willing to be on the front lines, a little too prepared in my opinion. Pig, Elvis, Alex, and God knows who else had a score to settle. After being cheated by a fake friend, lied to, and facing possible defamation by association, acted accordingly. By nature of being in commentary, they couldn't be seen with a barely legal bait chaser. They also couldn't take the sting of somebody who was an effective liar and thief. This act could effectively strike a decisive blow that would not only equate the damage they felt was justified, but leave a long-lasting burn on his reputation. Now let me clarify. Ed is deserving of what's coming to him, but Pig, Elvis, and Alex all look incredibly shady. Their story as well as Ed's doesn't add up, and the conveyed timeline of events doesn't add up. But this isn't the biggest problem I have with the situation. This is the commentary community. This community has had 3 major cases of YouTubers facing allegations and even criminal punishment related to interacting with younger women. I speak of Kiwi, Basherverse, and the big daddy of the trio, Linemaker. These 3 incidents are practically pillars that played a major role in erecting the commentary community. Many, especially Elvis, Pig, Zaptie, and Alex, could recite these incidents. These, I would assume, are committed to each of their memories. So riddle me this. Why would they release elaborate details to the public as eagerly as they did if they weren't looking to settle the score with Zaptie? By releasing this information, they've made any legal case against him much softer. Any evidence and leads that were true and clean are now open to be muddled with by rumors and false leads. These YouTubers know that releasing information that could potentially initiate and fuel a police investigation become far less credible and valuable if placed in the public eye beforehand. Why would they willingly weaken their case if they were confident that they had Ed by the balls? I also won't fail to mention that this doesn't hold up their self-proclaimed ethics in the past. This may not be a backstab, but you released private information in an unnecessary and untimely fashion. By doing this, you all look too susceptible to act on knee-jerk emotions and even less trustworthy to, how you claim your character and methodologies to be. You have lessened your credibility when handling this situation that is more than a familiar one to all of you. You should have only released what was necessary until you took legal action and made progress in your case. You should have told everyone that Zaptie is in hot water and should be regarded as untrustworthy until further details could be provided. Why should I, as your viewer and possible colleague, take what you say and do as trustable after this? You're incredibly impulsive, and it's made you act in ways that go very much against what you all supposedly stand for. So in conclusion, Ed is in deep shit, and anyone involved in the incident are suspiciously quiet, but quick to make fun of him and, do the memes and jokes. I hope you all shape up soon, as I'm a big fan of a lot of you, but I find myself incredibly disappointed in how you handled your affairs. Good night.